right, hello Girl Scouts. I'm Megan with the Girl Scouts of Central Maryland. As I wait for a couple of you all to hop on the video, today we are going to be making a DIY paracord snake craft. So he's gonna look just like this right here. All right, so we made this with paracord. Right, wait for a couple more people to come on and hop on. So this is what we'll be making today. All right, and so the materials that we're going to need to make this are 2 different colors of paracord. We're also going to use googly eyes if you have them, a small piece of either red paracord or pipe cleaner or something like that. I'm going to be using some tape to tape my stuff down onto the table. I'm also going to need a pen or a pencil or something like that to attach the cord to, and a lighter or a hot glue gun. And with the lighter or the hot glue gun, you're going to need some help with an adult, depending on, you know, what you're choosing to use. If you're using a lighter, definitely ask for help from an adult. As we're coming on here, let me know where you're watching from. We've had girls watching from all over the place, and if you haven't already had a chance to see, Box Turtle from the Caitlin Dunbar Nature Center has put up a fantastic video all about snakes, so be sure to take a look at that and learn some more about snakes after we finish with this craft. So I'm gonna go ahead and tilt you guys down so you can see the table that I'm working on. So again, this is the snake that we're going to be making. All right. I made this one with pink and yellow, but today I'm going to be making my snake with 2 different colors of green. With our paracord, we are going to need a lot of paracord. These bundles that I have are probably about 8 to 10 feet long, and I'm not going to cut them down. I'm going to keep them at that length. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unravel them and let them kind of fall down past the side of my table. All right. And again, you don't have to use 2 different colors of green. Those are just the colors that I will be making. So I'm going to unravel both of my pieces of paracord. All right. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to melt the tips of my paracord and fuse them together. So paracord will melt very easily with just a lighter, and I'm going to fuse the 2 together so I have a very, very, very long piece of paracord. So I'm going to go ahead and melt the tips of both of them very carefully. If you're doing this, make sure that you have a parent helping you, or you can also hot glue the ends together so that they are stuck together. So right now I'm just melting them so that they get a little melty, and sticking them together and waiting for them to cool. All right, so it gets really hot, so we don't want to touch it until it's cooled off. All right, so now they're nice and stuck together. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to need our pen, pencil, marker, some sort of pencil-shaped object. And what we're going to do is we are going to loop around our paracord kind of like we would if we were putting on a luggage tag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop it around and then pull through the cords. And our cords are really long, so it's going to be a lot to pull it through, but we're just going to go ahead and pull them through. Our very long paracord, so that it just loops onto our marker. And as I looped it on, I made sure that that spot where we fused it together, I kind of off-centered it a little bit because we want it to be one solid color at the end right here on our marker. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go about a foot long. I'm not measuring it. I'm just doing about how long I'd like for my snake to be. And about a foot down our paracord, we're going to go ahead and just simply tie a knot with our paracord. And so this knot is going to show how long our snake is going to be. adjust mine a little bit. So as we do this, we're gonna see I accidentally got mine a little bit loose, and we want the 2 strings to be the exact same length. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna loosen my knot and adjust it so that those 2 pieces of paracord that are going to be side by side will be the exact same and kind of pulled tight together. All right. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this knot and I'm going to tape it to my table so that I have somewhere that it's sturdy and hanging onto. If you don't have the ability to tape it on, you can ask somebody to hold onto your knot, or if you have a hook or something, you can hook this knot onto a hook so that we can hang tight. But I don't have those options, so I'm just going to use a piece of tape and tape right on top of that knot, but I'm not going to cover too much more other than the knot because we are going to be starting to create from there. All right, so once I have it taped down, I might need to retape it every once in a while if it does get a little loose, but we can do that as we go through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 color of the string on my left side and 1 on my right side, so that we should have it set up looking just like this. And just so you guys can see, I'm going to go ahead and just show you from how I'm looking at it. So on my left, I have my light green, and on my right, I have my dark green. So I'm going to put you guys back up. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making knots. If you've ever done macrame, it's kind of like macrame. If you've made another type of paracord, you might have done some of these knots before, or if you've made friendship bracelets, I've used some of these knots when making friendship bracelets. So what I'm going to do is with my string on my left, I'm going to make a 4, but instead of going on top of these strings, I'm going, actually, no, I apologize. I am going to make a 4 on the top of my strings with my light green. All right. All right. And I'll go ahead and slow down. I'm going to set this up. I'm not going to tie the knot yet. So for those of you that are getting everything ready, I'm just going to set up this first knot. I'm not going to pull it tight, and I'll show you what I'm looking at so everybody can catch up. And then what I'm going to do with my other string, my dark green, I'm going to go and pull it underneath of this string and through the hole of the 4 that we made on that side. I'm not going to pull it tight yet. I'll go ahead and give everybody a quick second to catch up. I'm just going to pull it so that it's loosely sitting here, and I will show you what that knot looks like. Oops. All right. It's a little tricky when our strings are super long. So let me go ahead and just pause and I'll show you. So I made a 4 with my light green string, and with my dark green, I pulled that over top of the tail of my 4, brought it underneath my 2 strings right here, and pulled it up through the inside of that 4. All right. So I'm going to give you guys a second. And with each of these knots, we're going to be doing 3 different knots over and over again. For those that are still catching up, that might have just popped on, what I did is I fused my paracord together with a lighter so that I had 2 strings stuck together. I tied it onto a pen or a marker with like kind of a luggage tag sort of loop. And then I tied a knot at the very top side of it, and this length that we have right here is going to be the length of our snake, and I taped it to my table so that I had a good spot to work with. And what I'm going to do with that knot, once I have that loosely set up, I'm just going to slide it up all the way up to the knot that I made. And again, we're going to make 3 knots, and then we're going to continue to do those 3 knots over and over again. So now that I have that knot tied with my string on the left, I am going to make a 4, but my 4 is going to cross underneath of these strings right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to then bring up the tail of my string and go over top that what we just made and in through the 4. If you've ever made that kind of spiral staircase type of friendship bracelet, it's almost exactly the same knot. It's the same kind of way that you would make that. So let me go ahead and show you what that looks like from another angle just so you can see. So I brought my dark green string underneath, brought it back up, and looped it through the inside of the 4. And once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and pull that string up nice and tight. And then with my light green string on my right side, I'm going to make a 4, but instead of going underneath this time, I'm going to go on top of those 2 strings. Take the tail end of my string, pull it up through inside that loop that we just made. And I'll go ahead and I'll show you again with this one. So I made my loop and I pulled it on up through, and I'm then going to pull up tight. Yes, this video is going to stay posted once we're done, so you can go back to the beginning and do it over so that you can catch up. But those are the 3 knots that we're going to be making. So I'm going to go over them again and show you, and we're just going to keep repeating that pattern. So we're going to make a 4 with our string on the left, and with our string on the right, we are going to, it's a little tricky when you get started because the strings are so very long. Put that right on top of that right there, and then pull it under and through the other side. Keep pulling. It'll get a little bit easier as we go because the strings will begin to get shorter. So let me go ahead and show you this first knot again. All right. So I made a 4 with my left side to start, 1 with the right side on top of that string that I had just pulled through the tail of that 4, and brought it up through the inside of my 4 on the left. And get you guys set back up. And we're just gonna keep on going through. I'm gonna make my 4 on the left, and my 4 on the left is always gonna be underneath. Always gonna be underneath. Pull it through and tighten it up. And if you accidentally make your 4 on top instead of underneath, that's okay. It's just gonna change the way that these kind of bumps on the outside start to form, but that's okay. It'll still make the knots and it'll still be working through that. So I'm gonna go ahead and on top with my right and pull it through. And slide it on up. All right. And then I'm gonna do my knot with both of the strings again. Pull that out of the way. And pull it on up. And we're gonna see these knots start to form to make our snake. And we can see that it's creating almost kind of a striped pattern as we go through. And we're just gonna continue to do these 3 knots until we get to the very end. So, left, and up through. And as we do this, our strings that we're working with on either side are going to start to get shorter. So, and it uses a lot of paracord. The pink and yellow snake that I showed you at the very beginning, I had actually trimmed my cords a little bit shorter and had to go and fuse the pieces that I cut off back together because I had cut it too short and I needed more to continue working. And so I'm just gonna keep on going through. as we work our way down. If anybody needs me to show you the 3 knots again, let me know in the comments and I'll go ahead and show you those 3 knots again. And we're gonna keep working through until we have about an inch left of paracord right by our marker. And again, you don't have to use greens. You can do this in any color. Like I showed you mine earlier, that I made earlier is pink and yellow. All right, I'm just gonna keep on going until we get to the end. All right. Wonderful. And once you all are finished making yours, I would love to see the different snakes that we have made in the comments with our pictures. And I don't know if some of you might have earlier today with Laura made a finger knitting snake. So it'd be cool to see if some of you made both of them to see what they look like compared next to each other. Right. And oop. And there are a lot of different ways that you can do paracord. So if you bought a kit that has a lot of different types of paracord in it, so I know my paracord kit came with, I think, about like 10 colors or so, and it also came with some buckles so that you can make a bracelet out of it. There are a lot of different things that you can kind of explore and see what else you can do with the paracord if you got a couple different colors in your kit, which I'm definitely going to try and do some other things with mine to see what I can create. And so as I'm going through, I'm just repeating these 3 knots over and over, always keeping my left side when I'm doing my single left knot underneath, and my single right knot always on top. And again, if you mix it up and you do it opposite, or you do both of them on top or both of them on the bottom, that's okay, it'll still work. It'll just change how these kind of bumps on the side look. Top and pull it through. Or if you accidentally make 2 of the knots with both strings, that's okay, it'll make your snake unique. Sometimes when you're doing this, you might forget which knot you last made, and that's okay. And so as you guys go through, you're going to notice that the strings that you have that are on the sides are going to start to get shorter, because this kind of knot uses a lot of string to make these paracord snakes. Paracord is something that whenever I go camping, I always make sure I have it with me, because it's a really great tool to have in case you need to tie something up or have any needs of that you might need something for string. And when you have it wrapped up like this, if you are in an emergency where you might need a lot of it, we'll have 16 feet of paracord here that I can then snip on an end and unravel and have paracord if I need it. And it's a really easy way to carry it around so that it doesn't become unraveled or anything like that. keep on repeating these 3 knots. Over and over. And again, once you're done, you can also go and watch the video that Box Turtle did, showing you the turtles that we, or not, sorry, not the turtles. He is Box Turtle, the snakes that we have at the Caitlin Dunbar Nature Center, and he teaches you a lot about them. He'll talk about how they shed their skin and a lot of really fun things about the snakes that we have at Girl Scouts of Central Maryland. Our string's going to keep getting shorter and shorter as we go through. As we're making our snakes, you can maybe try and think about what you want to name your snake. My pink and yellow one, I had a friend who was a big fan of a series of unfortunate events and named it Lemony Snake It. So that is my pink and yellow snake name. So I'll have to be thinking about what I want this snake to have. And I think this one I'm going to try and think of a good Girl Scout name for it. I'm not quite sure yet, but if you guys have any suggestions on what I can name my snake that I'm making right now, let me know. And you also can be thinking about what you might want to name your snake. Keep going. And it's getting easier and easier the longer that I do this, because I'm getting used to making the knots and my string's getting shorter and shorter as I go. I'd say right now I probably only have about half of the string left, or the paracord left. And for any of you that might be tuning in just now, these instructions are going to be up as soon as the video is complete, so that you can go ahead and make it on your own time. If you need to pause anything to get steps caught up, you can do that as well. So we're just going to keep on going until we get to about an inch left at the very end right here. And we'll show you how to finish the end of our snake. This part right here is going to end up being the head of our snake. Keep on going. And each time that we do that knot with bowstrings, our colors are flip-flopping sides. And that's helping us to get this really fun striped pattern. closer and closer to the end. And we're just repeating those 3 knots over and over again. If you have paracord that happens to be longer than 8 feet, you can try and make a very long snake. Let's see how long you can make it. Or you could even keep adding more to the ends if you created a really long base to work on, and keep adding ones and have maybe a multicolored snake. And we're getting close to the end, and once we get close to the end, we want to leave about an inch left by our pen or marker, pencil, whatever we have holding it on, because we're going to then create the head of our snake. Almost there on mine, and if you're not there already, that's okay. You guys can keep working on your 3 knots and going through, and once you are to the last end of it, you can catch back up with where I am in the video and finish up your snake. But I had some practice. I already made one, so I'm a little fast at making the knots, but that's okay if you're not as fast as me. Everybody works at their own pace. I'm gonna do a couple more knots, and it looks like we're getting close to the very end of mine. I'll go ahead. And it doesn't matter which knot you end on, just depending on how much space is left is where you want to stop. So I think I'm going to do 2 more knots, and I think I'll be ready to make the head. I think that'll be a good amount left. May do a couple more. So you just want about an inch left for the head. And I'm gonna go ahead and do 2 more knots. You can go ahead, once you get close to the end, if your marker's getting in the way, you can go ahead and take it off. Just make sure you're still doing the knots around the end of the string. That marker just helps you hold it tight as you're closer to the beginning of your project. All right, so now I have about an inch size loop left at the very end, and I still have plenty of cord left. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of cord, probably about 6 inches or so, from whichever string that is the longest that's left over. Go ahead, grab my scissors, and cut off a piece about 6 inches. Doesn't have to be perfect. What we're then going to do is we're going to fold this kind of together in a size that will fit inside that loop. So I'm going to go ahead and show you all from this angle. So I have my loop right here, and I'm going to fold this up, and actually I'm going to put a piece of tape around mine so that it's a little bit more sturdy, and it'll be sitting inside this leftover loop that we have. Prop you back up. So I'm going to go ahead, just take a little piece of tape just so it's a little bit secure. Doesn't have to be masking tape, it can be clear tape or any other type of tape. And I'm just simply going to tape that so it's sitting there a little tight, and this is going to help be the head of our snake. And what we're going to do now, if you guys remember the very first knot that we're making, we're using both of our strings. So for this one, I'm going to take my lime green string and I'm going to make that cross on top, just like we were doing at the very beginning, and then my dark green string is going to loop underneath. And I'm going to tighten that knot. For the next knot, instead of continuing to start with the left side every time, I'm always going to keep my lime green on the top as I'm making these knots. So my lime green is always going to be the knot that is on the string that's on the top as I loop it through. As I keep it on the top, that's going to keep that lime green working and being the string that we see on top. So for this part, I'll show you on my pink snake, I have the yellow on one side and the pink on the other. For the head of our snake, we want it just to be one color on the top. So as I'm making my knots, I'm alternating and keeping my lime green one on the top of our head, and I'm looping the dark green on the bottom. And I'm going to do that until I get to the end of the head. So my lime green on top, and it's the same knot, we're just changing the order of our knots. And if you want your head to be striped, you can go ahead and keep doing it with starting with whichever one is on your left. But I like for my head to be all one color. So I'm going to keep going with that. Once you get a little bit closer with your red pipe cleaner or your red piece of paracord, you can kind of stick that in there and let it stick out a little bit, because this is going to be the tongue. You can also hot glue it on, or since if you are using 2 pieces of paracord, you can fuse them together with a lighter. And I'm just going to keep on going, and I'll go ahead and I'll kind of show you from my angle for those of you. So we can see that I'm starting to get that lime green on the top. And that popped out, but it's okay. I can go ahead and put it back in, and then once I'm finished, I'll make sure it's super secure. So as I'm doing this, my lime green is staying on the top for every knot. All right, put you back up. And once I get to the very end, we're going to then just trim our ends off and secure them with either hot glue or the lighter. I need to couple more knots before I'm ready for that step, so I will show you that step once I get there. And it does get a little tricky towards the very tip. If you need some help, feel free to ask for help. You might need somebody to help kind of hold it or just help you to keep those knots in the right place. It gets a little harder at the very end, but that's okay. As long as we try our best, and if we need help, it's okay to ask for help. All right, I'm gonna do one more knot, I think. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. I am at the very end of my snake right here. So we can see that if I keep doing knots, I'm going to be making knots on the tongue, and we don't want to be making knots on the tongue. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the paracord at these two spots right here, and then use my lighter to melt them down so that they stay stuck. So let me put you back up. Apologize that I keep moving you guys all over the place today. But we can also then, for this step, take that off. We have taped, tied knots over our tape, but you can simply just tear your tape off and pull it through so that it's not there anymore. All right, and what I'm gonna do is I'll go ahead and show you. I'm gonna trim off one side right here, and simply with my lighter, as an adult will help you with this, melt the ends so that it sticks to the thing and it won't come apart. All right, and be careful, it's going to be hot once you've done that. All right, and then I'm going to do that on the other string as well. Cut a piece of it off and melt it down so that it stays nice and secure. Once I've done that, I can choose which side, a little string coming out, which side I want to be the top of my snake and which side I want to be the bottom. I think I kind of like the lime green side being the top. And then what I'm going to do is just simply attach my googly eyes. You can hot glue your googly eyes on, or mine are the sticky ones, so I'm just going to peel off the sticker back and put on my googly eyes for my snake. All right, and there she is, all finished. So you have your wonderful paracord snake. So I look forward to seeing the snakes that you all have made. If you all, as you're watching this after the fact, have any ideas on what I can name my snake that I just made, my green one, to go along with my friend Lemony Snake It after the series of Unfortunate Events movies and shows and books, let me know, and have fun making your snakes. I can't wait to see them.